Welcome to Beekeeping Today podcast presented by Bee Culture. Beekeeping Today podcast is your source for beekeeping news, information, and entertainment. I'm Jeff Ott.
And I'm Kim Flatham.
Hey, Jeff and Kim. Today's sponsor is Global Patties. They're a family-operated business that manufactures protein supplement patties for honeybees. It's a good time to think about honeybee nutrition. Feeding your hives protein supplement patties will ensure that they produce strong and healthy colonies by increasing brood production and overall honey flow. Now is a great time to consider what type of patty is right for your area and your honeybees. Global offers a variety of standard patties as well as custom patties to meet your needs. No matter where you are, Global is ready to serve you out of their manufacturing plants in Airdrie, Alberta, and in Butte, Montana, or from distribution depots across the continent. Visit them today at www.globalpatties.com.
Thanks, Sherry, and thank you, Global Patties. You know, each week we get to talk about how much we appreciate our sponsor support, and we know you'd rather we get right to talking about beekeeping. However, our great sponsors are critical to help making all of this happen. From the transcripts, the hosting fees, the software, the hardware, the microphones, the subscriptions, the recorders, they enable each episode. So with that, thanks to Bee Culture Magazine for continuing their presenting sponsorship of this podcast. Bee Culture has been the magazine for American beekeeping since 1873. Subscribe to Bee Culture today. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We're really happy you're here. Before we get started, just a quick reminder to subscribe or follow Beekeeping Today podcast and give us a 5-star rating. It really does help. Also, we are now adding complete transcripts of each episode on the website after the show notes. Check them out. You can also leave questions and comments online under each show. You can leave a comment, ask a question, reply to a question, ours or listeners. Click on Leave a Comment at the top of the episode's show notes to join the discussion. Have you listened to an episode and thought, that person sounds really interesting, and I'd like to know more about them? Well, now you can. Each episode links to a guest profile. Each profile has a guest photo, bio, contact information, including Instagram and Twitter details if they have them. Check it out. And finally, share the podcast with your beekeeping friends, email them links, or mention it at your next beekeeper meeting. Hey everybody, we hope you had an enjoyable holiday weekend, no matter how you celebrated it. Happy Earth Day, or is it week, or is it day? Anyways, Earth Day is this coming Friday, April 22nd. And in recognition of that day, we've invited Dr. Jonathan Lundgren back to the show to talk about his work at Blue Dasher Farm and with the Ecdysis Foundation's research on regenerative agriculture and soil conservation. Kim will join us in that conversation. We first learned of Jonathan in the Peter Nelson film, The Pollinators. If you've not seen it, do yourself a favor and rent it online at your earliest opportunity, if only for the photography alone. Peter has been a guest on the podcast a couple of times. Search for it. The film follows the bloom, talking with and filming migratory beekeepers and researchers, several of whom we've had as guests on the podcast, including Davey Hackenberg, Samuel Ramsey, and today's guest, Jonathan Lundgren. Peter is a beekeeper himself, and his love of bees and his respect for all those involved in the pollination business is readily seen in his film. The film really captures the challenges facing beekeepers who make a living hauling their bees across the country, as well as the challenges facing the growers. Well, let's get right to the interview with Jonathan Lundgren, but first, a quick message from our friends at Strong Microbials.
Hello, beekeepers. Your honeybees face a lot of challenges out there. Unbalanced food sources from monoculture crops, holding yards, drought, food shortages, antibiotics, pesticides, and pathogens like chalk brood. To overcome these challenges, your bees need the multiple bacteria that are in all nectars, pollens, and the environment. These bacteria aid honeybees' digestion and improve your honeybees' response and resilience to pesticides. Now you can help improve your honey colony health with a quick, easy, and safe-to-use product. Strong Microbials Super DFM Honeybee uses naturally occurring bacteria to restore the healthy gut biome of your honeybees. Check them out today at www.strongmicrobials.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Sitting across the virtual Zoom table right now is our friend of the podcast, Dr. Jonathan Lundgren. Jonathan, welcome back to Beekeeping Today podcast.
Yeah, it's great to hear you guys again and see everybody.
Good to hear you again, Jonathan.
Well, Jonathan, for those who don't know you and haven't, maybe it's been a while since they've seen the film The Pollinator, and that's how I was introduced to you and the work that you do. You give us your background, a little quick bio of what you're doing there.
Sure. So I'm an entomologist, got a doctorate down in Illinois, started working for USDA ARS for around 11 years. About 6 seasons ago, I quit and started something totally different. And we have a research nonprofit called Ecdysis Foundation. And we own a regenerative farm called Blue Dasher Farm here in South Dakota. And Ecdysis Foundation is trying to save the planet using our food system. We're trying to change how science is done in order to usher in an evolution towards a regenerative food system.
And what is regenerative agriculture?
Well, depends on who you talk to. I think of it as having 4 central elements: soil health, biodiversity or life, and then growing nutritious food and profitably. So those are kind of the 4 things that I think most regenerative farms focus on.
I'll play the devil's advocate. Aren't most farms regenerative?
No.
I mean, they've been doing it for years and years and years. They've been doing it wrong?
Yeah, they've been depleted. Most farms are mining operations. They're not farms. They've been extracting the natural resource base out of the farm for many, many years. And that model of agriculture is actually starting to go away now. So we're seeing the cracks in the ice, and we need to start re-strategizing how to do this. But the good thing is that, we're using science to show that it's probably twice as profitable to go regenerative than it is to stay conventional, while you also do things like save the bees and stuff like that. So it's a good solution.
I just need to come back to this so that we have a better picture of this. So this is something completely different than the big tractors with the football field plow behind it and tilling up the field and turning it over and smoothing it out and planting it in rows. It's a little bit different than that.
Yeah. It doesn't use tillage, always has living roots on the ground. So there's always plants out there, bare space on that soil, where bare soil is kind of something we try to avoid regenerative farming. And then, so plant diversity becomes really important, abandoning agrochemicals or reducing them substantially. And then integrating livestock in are some of the central principles of what a regenerative system is.
Oh, it does sound interesting.
All sorts of common sense going on here, Jonathan.
It does make a lot of sense, yeah. But it's it's not what we know, right? I mean, we've been told that we need to farm simpler and bigger, and I think that was a real myth. And those farmers are starting to really pay for it. I mean, look at input costs right now, for crying out loud. Right now, everybody's looking at the price of corn. They're wringing their hands thinking, oh my gosh, $8 corn, that we're going to make some money. But they're not seeing the price of diesel and the price of fertilizers. There's going to be a lot of people that make a heck of a lot of money off of farming this year, but it ain't the farmers. So there's this system that's supporting an industrialized complex that's really hurting the American farmer and killing off the bees while they're at it.
Well, there's the one thing that has risen to the top of my attention here is you've got a project going over the next several years called 1,000 Farms Initiative. And it sounds like, I can't imagine 1,000 farms, but it sounds like you can, and you're about to do something with 1,000 farms. You want to just kind of take a look at that and let us know what it is and how it's going to work?
Yeah, well, we're standing on the edge of a cliff right now in terms of our food system and the state of the planet. Climates are changing pretty rapidly. I think it's all hitting us a little bit more personally than it ever used to before. Extremes are the new normal these days. And honestly, as we deplete things like topsoil, we're also losing a lot of species. I mean, we're living through this massive extinction event on Earth where we're losing species at a rate that's never happened before. I reckon we've got about 10 years that we need to really reverse these issues, or else the planet will be fine, but we won't be on it. So it needs some bold action, and incremental steps isn't getting us where we got to go. And so we proposed the largest agricultural experiment that's ever been attempted. And so we'll be doing full ecosystem assessments on 1,000 farms across the United States. And what we're trying to do there is we're just trying to show it empirically, number one, does regen work no matter where you live and what you grow? And number two is farmers are developing strategies for transitioning as they've gone this road. Can we learn from what they've done in order to make this, remove a lot of the risks for folks that want to make a change to their own operations?
So you're talking every kind of crop system that's going on. You're talking cotton in the Southeast and grains in the Midwest and fruits and vegetables in the West, that sort of thing. So you're looking at all the kinds of crops and all the different kinds of things you're going to have to do to accomplish this with those very different crop requirements.
Yeah. So we kind of compartmentalize the U.S. and Canada eco regions to help us logistically. But within each of those, we kind of focus on certain commodities or food systems. And we try to select the dominant one. So you nailed it in your list, but there's probably, it gets more complicated.
Well, I can see where gaining information on a regional basis would be incredibly valuable, just because I'm guessing that even if you've got a crop, you're looking at a crop, you mentioned cranberries in Wisconsin, but there's also other crops in Wisconsin that could adapt the information that you gather on cranberries and apply it to their corn or their whatever.
Yeah, that's our hope, is that these will kind of have knock-on benefits. And the practices probably have to be optimized for each food system that we examine, but I think there'll be some consistencies there, won't there?
What makes Better Bee different as a beekeeping supplier is their focus on bringing new, innovative products to the market, such as the Colorado Bee Vac. The Colorado Bee Vac is the world's leading bee vacuum, trusted to quickly and safely capture bees during cutouts or swarms and easily transfer them to a hive. The Colorado Bee Vac was carefully crafted and tested to relocate bees while drastically minimizing any losses. Visit betterbee.com/beevac to learn more and get yours today.
Always in research, there's the bigger question: how is this funded?
Yeah. So partnerships, right now we're talking with various philanthropic groups. We know how much it costs us. It costs us about $7,500 per farm to do the analyses. And so we know what our target is. You can do the math, figure out how much this is going to cost us. We allow people to sponsor farms for inclusion. And so we've been using that model to help recruit farm sponsors. And those can come from even, so it can come from, donors or philanthropic groups or grower organizations or corporate sponsors that are interested in changing their supply chain or have sustainability goals that they need to try to meet. So there's a lot of options there.
I guess a grassroots thing right here would be to anybody listening is if you are working or know of an organization in your community or that you're associated with that might be interested in this, how can they get your information to the people who sign the checks?
Yeah, www.ecdysis.bio, ECDYSIS.bio. That's where you can find all the info on this.
We'll include those links in the show notes as well.
we place beehives on regeneratively raised ranches versus conventionally managed ranches here in eastern South Dakota last summer. Hives gained, I think it was something like 20% more weight on the regeneratively produced ranches, and they had almost no varroa mites at the end of the season.
Oh, wow.
So, we're going to examine which of them survived and which ones didn't, but there was no treatments on any of those hives.
That was my follow-up question. Well, if there was any treatments on this. Wow, that's pretty amazing.
No. Yeah. No, I mean, varroa mite has never been the problem, right? Varroa mite is just a stressor. It's a symptom. And unless we stop poisoning and starving our bees, the varroa mite will go away. And that's what we are showing with our research.
Well, I'm going to guess for most of the people listening, that's why I'm listening, is why is this important to me as a beekeeper?
Yeah. This is the answer to the bee problem, right?
Yep.
I mean, honestly, when the bees start dying, when did they start dying? 2006, 2008, something.
Yeah.
And then, how much money have we spent on the bee problem?
Well, I think an even, I don't know if it's a bigger issue, but certainly another issue going on with this is that if my bees are living in an environment where you are using far less inputs that are toxic to the environment, the better my bees are going to be no matter what. And that sounds like exactly what I would be. If I was looking for someplace to put 20 colonies, I want to be on one of those 1,000 farms.
Yep, that's right. As we make all of the farms regenerative, it'll make the world a lot better for the bees. That's essentially the issue, right? I mean, we spent hundreds of millions of dollars treating this like it was a bee problem, and we lost just as many bees this year as we did in 2008. I mean, it's not working. So we have to understand that this isn't a bee problem, and we have to treat it as such, and that's the only way we're going to get out of this mess. So when we started Blue Dasher, I said, oh yeah, we're going to help save bees. And then I started working on cropping systems, and everything in the bee world ended up getting kind of quiet. And I was like, well, what's that Lundgren doing? He's not working on beehives anymore or whatever. I'm like, well, actually, we are. This is the only answer for the bee problem, and it doesn't necessarily involve a lot of hives. We've always cured hives before.
Well, we've had quite a few, or I should say several guests pointing out and working on the bee forage issue and bee forage being an issue or lack thereof. And this fits right in hand in glove with that discussion.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I think another thing that should probably be that people listening to this should be interested in is if you are doing far less land management, should I call it, in terms of tillage and plowing and harrowing and what have you, you are releasing less carbon, you are addressing some of the climate issues that are going on. And so you're kind of getting two birds with one stone here. You're regenerating the soil and producing an environment that's healthier. You are not producing toxins, and you are not releasing carbon that's going to do stuff down the road.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good answer. While you make twice as much profit? That sounds all right to me.
My last 6 months, I've been spending some amount of time away from bees and more on looking at what's going on with the environment and what can be done to, fix it, but at least help it recover. Farming is the big one. You can talk about fossil fuels, and you can talk about, all of the other things that are going on. But if you could turn farming carbon release off, you could take a deep breath and go, okay, now we got a minute to breathe.
Yeah. I mean, 40% of the terrestrial land surface of our planet is agroecosystems that we manage. That's a hell of a tool, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. So what can I do? I'm a hobby beekeeper out here in Ohio.
Yep. Start number one, change your life, right? Know where your food's coming from. Know your farmer. That's step one.
Yeah.
Put your phone away after you're listening to the podcast. After you're finished
I was
with that,
just getting ready to say, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
After the end of this podcast.
Connect with the natural world again. Beekeepers are some of the best naturalists that I've ever met. People ask me, what would you do if you had a magic wand to save the planet? I would say, we've just lost what it means to be human.
Yeah.
And if I had a magic wand, I would take and remove everybody's socks and shoes and force them to walk through a prairie for a while and feel and experience the natural world again through all of their senses. And I think that's the kind of connections that we need again in order to get our way through this. Unless we fundamentally change or rediscover who we are, slowing our lives down, the bees are just a canary in the coal mine, aren't they?
So back to the 1,000 farms, I have a couple quick questions, or maybe not so quick. First, is there any specific size farm you're looking for or that you're working with? We
would like our samples to be representative of that mean for each region, for each food system. So kind of what we're shooting at.
So at a high level, what do you do when you identify a farm? What's your step from, identifying it through to actually fulfilling and getting them up to speed as one of your test farms?
Yeah. So what we end up doing is, we put out a call. We have about 850 farms registered so far. And so we don't know where we're going to be able to sample of the farms that registered, but we do know that we won't be able to sample any of the farms that didn't register. So that's our first step, is to ask for people to take 2 minutes and put your farm in. There's about, 15 yes or no questions or something like that. Plus we need to know the location of what you've been doing on there. So it doesn't take long. And then based on that, we could kind of look at different food systems as well as regions, and clusters are going to make life a lot easier for us. So the logistics of this experiment are daunting. Mm-hmm. And so having farms that are clustered together makes our jobs a heck of a lot easier.
And what are you sampling in those farms?
Yeah. So we'll be looking at carbon levels, deep carbon, soil micronutrient levels, physical chemical properties of the soils, microbiology in the soils, water, invertebrates, insects, plants, birds, mammals, nutrient analysis of the plants themselves, as well as the yields, and then economics and management decisions on each of these farms. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
these are going to be the best studied farms like ever.
So are you going to have teams working with these folks?
Yeah. So we deploy teams of 8 to 10 for weeks at a time, or a week at a time or so, into each food system. And then we kind of just blitzkrieg through and get the information that we need. Yeah. One of the things we desperately need, and we're running our bee program on a shoestring right now, but we need people that are willing to help, either by donating nukes or support in order to get beehives on some of these, so that we could demonstrate the impact of regen on honeybee production. I think that this could really help the industry a lot.
Well, real quick, I'm going to interrupt here. Then you've got a cluster of farms somewhere in Ohio. Let's say you or your organization or somebody could be contacting the Ohio State Beekeepers or Michigan Beekeepers or whoever, taking it the next step and say, we need 100 colonies on the best land you're ever going to put bees on. Yeah. Do I have any volunteers?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that's what we need to be doing, isn't it? And then it's a matter of studying those. So we'd have to get some sensors deployed that could collect data real time. But I think that'd totally be doable.
Well, you've got a lot of states have inspectors, so there's some foot in the door with identifying at least current status when they move in, and then your team could be coming and monitoring it from, moving into the end of the season or whenever your program is over on that particular plot. But for people listening, if you've got a state association and you're looking for a good place to put bees, What's that web page that we're going to go to?
Ecdysis.bio, ECDYSIS.bio.
And all that information is there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, there you go.
Well, that sounds really interesting. So you're looking for bees on each one of these farms, or at least in several of the farms, to be able to determine the quality impact that this regenerative farm approach really does have on the bees. That'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I think that could be a really helpful outcome. We've tried, a bunch of different stuff over the last few years, holistic approaches like probiotics and vitamin C supplements and all these different, nutritional supplements, and our bees just crashed every year. And then we put them on these regenerative rangelets and we watched them thrive. And you're like, yeah, why am I piddling around with inputs right now when this is obviously the answer that we need to be doubling down on? So.
Well, I'll go back and I'll say it again. If you're looking for the best place in the world to put your bees, get a hold of one of these farms and get your truck ready and get them moved. So from a farmer's perspective, I donate my farm. I raise my hand. I volunteer my farm. I'm guessing that you've got a book of rules and regulations I'm going to have to follow.
No, not a bit. You have to answer a 2-minute survey about where your farm is. Then you have to point us in the direction of your farm or specific field that we're interested in. And then at the end of the season, there's like a 45-minute survey that you'd have to answer. And Lynette's real nice. She's nice to talk to. So it's not much of a hardship. And then you get $7,500 worth of data about your farm.
But you're looking for farmers who are basically practicing not industrial farming, but something a little less rigorous. And are there some guidelines or boundaries or something?
Well, we're interested in farms that span a continuum of management practices. But yeah, we want the leaders in regen to be well represented in the study because they're one of the positive control groups, right? And then we want true conventional farms out there as well, because those are the sort of the other control group for the two extremes. But then, depending on, most farms end up falling in the middle somewhere, don't they? And so we can use that to partition. So we're interested in established farms, but then we're also interested in farms that are interested in transitioning. So adopting more regenerative practices like no-till cover crops, abandoning pesticides, livestock integration, compost teas, those kinds of things into their operation, because then we'll study those farms. We'll repeatedly return to those farms over the next 10 years.
And these aren't necessarily the entire farm converted to this.
No, it's just one field.
Field.
Our experimental unit is the field.
And for us non-farmers, one field is how many acres?
Well, it depends on the commodity, but usually it's, 10 acres or to 160 acres or whatever,
A section, yeah. Are you recommending so I'm a farmer and I want to transition. And I'm looking at what you want to happen on this piece of land. And one of the things you want to have happen is, you just mentioned cover crops. Who recommends the cover crop I can plant there?
Well, the farmers in the region are probably going to be some of the teachers there. So that's kind of built into the whole 1,000 farm model, is that there's a support network for people that are interested in making change. And we're learning from the farmers that are the leaders in this in order to see how they make changes to their own operations back when they got started. So lots and lots of information on what to use and how to implement it. So we're going to consolidate that down into best management practices for each food system and regions to make that easier for farmers.
Well, that sounds. I guess again, I'll go back to the people that want to transition. How do I put this? I don't want to get left guessing. How's that?
Yeah. No. You won't be. There's lots of support. So, yep, I'm not worried about that a bit.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because my experience, I worked extension a bunch of years ago, and my experience was if I'm left with the farmers I worked, if I was left guessing, I went back to what I used to do because I know how to do it, as opposed to learning what I need to be doing different. So you mentioned a best management book. I'd like to get a hold of that best management book. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, well, we're writing them as we go a little bit.
Okay.
We're allowing the farmers to decide what those look like.
Okay, good. Well, what have we missed? We got 1,000 farm program coming up. You got farmers in transition. You got a place to put bees that's better than any place else on the planet. What am I missing here?
Yeah, I don't know. Now we need to start thinking about what regenerative beekeeping looks like, don't we? Is it all just hive placement? What do you guys think? What does that look like to you? Or I don't think you can use all these inputs that we've been doing. That's not regenerative, is it?
How do I put this? My experience in the last several years has been I'm tired of putting poison in a beehive.
Yeah.
And you have a giant step in the right direction, I think. So from a beekeeper who wants to be regenerative, I'm going to start looking at what you're looking at and keep doing what I'm not doing is putting poison in a beehive.
Yeah.
I will again, I hate playing the devil's advocate all the time, but a lot of times you're stuck with where you're at. So if the farmers around you are not regenerative, and you have nothing but acres of soybean or acres of corn or whatever the commodity is, you're kind of like SOL at that point, and unless you can move your bees around and find an ideal location, one of the 1,000 farms.
Well, you're SOL if you leave them there, though,
right.
too, aren't you? So you're SOL no matter what. So you get to choose.
Well, you're right.
Do you want to lay down and die, or do you want to fight this?
Lay down and die. Well, you're right, though. But that's
laying down and dying right now.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm thinking this book you've got on best management practices.
We already have one for almonds. You guys can look it up. We developed one for almonds already.
I'm in a heartbeat, but I got no almonds growing here in Ohio. I got corn across the road, so I could take your corn information, go talk to this guy, and say, look, more corn, less money, more profit, and my bees are alive. What do you think? So
yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah, well, we'll get it to you. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Jonathan, this has been enlightening, and yeah. I am more than interested in talking to you down the road again. We are more than interested in talking to you to see where this first year has gone, or even in the middle of the first year, if you're seeing some kind of positive results, or it's skewing in a direction you hadn't anticipated that maybe we need to be aware of. So keep us informed, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll just make the Earth Day the Ecdysis podcast. How about we'll just give you an annual update?
We'll count on that. That can be our annual update. Will be Earth Day, Earth Day week. We'll have Jonathan back every year going forward.
I've pissed enough people off, right? That's how it works.
Well, just if they need that little bit of motivation each year, they know where to find it. So I think it'll be good. Jonathan, I enjoy having you on the show, especially on Earth Week. I do like that idea. We were talking before we started recording. If you want to give us a brief update or an update along the way, you can send us an audio postcard. We'd be happy to run it. And kind of give an update for our listeners. But again, thank you for joining us on Beekeeping today, this year.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. This is great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan, and good luck with your project this year. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Okay, take care, guys.
Bye. Kim, I really enjoyed having Jonathan back on the show. He was such a big part of the Pollinators film. Seeing him hold that piece of dirt and the dirt in his hands, and just how sterile and horrible that soil was, and just kind of crumbling and landing back on the ground. And his message about that has really struck a nerve for me, and it's so important. And I'm glad to see he's continuing his work. It helps us all.
Well, not only continuing, but expanding it.
Yeah.
Incredibly expanding it. He's taking not only the soil, but all of the things above the soil and all the things below the surface of the soil, and making them healthy, wealthy, and hopefully us wise on what we should be doing in terms of how we treat the planet.
Oh, absolutely. And to bring it back around full circle to bees, his statement about the bees that were on the regenerative farm acreage were are healthier, had a lower infestation of varroa. I think he said no, but I'll go with lower just because. And I think that is true. I think that the healthier the honeybee is, the better they're able to fend off the varroa and or all the associated viruses and diseases the mites bring.
Well, the healthy comes from the stresses of the world they live in, the toxins on all of the plants that they visit, the toxins in the beeswax that they live on, all of the things that are inputting and stressing them all of the time. You take away most of that, and you're going to have much healthier bees without having to do anything. They're just better off because they don't have all this stuff in their life.
And it increased the abundance of the different things they can forage on too. So,
yep, exactly.
Variety is the spice of life. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Before we go, I want to encourage our listeners to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, wherever you download and stream the show. Your vote helps other beekeepers find us quicker. Even better, write a review and let other beekeepers looking for a new podcast know what you like. You can get there directly from our website by clicking on reviews along the top of any web page. As always, we thank Bee Culture, the magazine for American beekeeping, for their continued support of Beekeeping Today podcast. We want to thank our regular episode sponsor, Global Patties. Check them out at globalpatties.com. Thanks to Strong Microbials for their support of this podcast. Check out their probiotic line at strongmicrobials.com. We want to thank Better Bee for their longtime support. Check out all their great beekeeping supplies at betterbee.com. Thanks to Northern Bee Books for their support of Bee Books Old New with Kim Flodham. Check out all of their books at northernbeebooks.co.uk. And finally, and most importantly, we want to thank you, the Beekeeping Today podcast listener, for joining us on the show. Feel free to leave us comments and questions at Leave a Comment section under each episode on the website. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot, everybody.